Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to NFL Weekly Picks Week 8 with the Red, White, and Bills and Go Bills podcast with Brett McDurphy. Brett's finally back after a couple weeks of hurricanes and car accidents, so good to see him back. He is 66-42, and I narrowed the gap down to 61-45. I had a really good week last couple weeks, and he must have still been concussed from the car accident because he made some pretty bad picks the last couple weeks. But we got another good week of football to talk about, and we'll see what we end up with. Starting off with the Minnesota Vikings at the Rams. Who you got for this one?
I'm going to take the Rams. I'm sorry. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings in this game.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're starting off bad again.
No, I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry. Maybe the concussion did have a little bit of an effect, but I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings. They are looking strong right now, and I feel like they're just one of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah, even with them losing last week, they crawled back down 21-10, and obviously Detroit's a good team as well, and it's a division game. So I think that's it's going to be a fun division near the end. But I'm also going with Minnesota. The Rams are still a little bit banged up, and this loss here, they could start having a fire sale, which would be good for us because we play the Rams sometime after the bye week. So any easier game is welcomed, and I'm sure anybody would take that. But yeah, and then you got Baltimore against Cleveland. Obviously, Cleveland lost their starting quarterback. They lost Amari Cooper, but they got Nick Chubb back, and they did play a pretty good game against the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals got a kick return touchdown the first play of the game, and they ended up winning 21-14. So who knows if that kick return never happened, what would have played out. But obviously, Baltimore won 5 games in a row. Everybody has forgotten that they lost to the Raiders and lost to the Chiefs because you went 5 in a row. And, you beat up Buffalo pretty good. So it's always funny because people say how bad we are. We can't beat this. We can't beat good teams. But then we're always a highlight when someone beats us. Oh, yeah. We beat Buffalo, though. So it's like people don't make up their mind. Like, are we a really great team or are we not a good team and we can only beat scrubs? And if that's the case, don't take credit for beating us if we're not that good. But yeah, I think Baltimore, they're going to win 6 in a row. They're going to be pretty hard to beat this year until obviously you got to see what they do in the playoffs. But they're going to be a tough out. But I got Baltimore winning this one.
Yeah, Baltimore winning this one as well. I do feel like this game, even though it is a 10.5-point spread, is going to be closer just because the Cleveland Browns defense is going to keep them in it. But the thing is Jameis Winston on the other side of the ball. That's what makes me nervous about this game. But I feel like it's going to be closer than people expect. And I think that the spread will be less than 10.5. I think that Cleveland will keep it close, though.
That'll be a good game. Then you got another division matchup. You got the Colts again against Houston in Houston. I thought about picking this game for the upset, but then I was like, well, the Colts defense is pretty bad right now. They're one of the worst passing defenses in the league. I don't know if they're going to have Jonathan Taylor back. So at the time, I wasn't confident. If Jonathan Taylor was playing, I probably would pick them because the first game they played, it was 26-27. Houston won that game. So I probably would have picked Indianapolis again. Taylor might play, but I'm not sure as of right now. So I took the safe route and went with Houston.
Yeah, I feel like Houston's playing pretty good ball right now. I mean, you look at Stephon Diggs, the one person that we don't love to talk about. He's been playing pretty good as well, and they're starting to roll. Indianapolis is kind of one of those teams that's a roller coaster franchise right now. And even though they are having success, and they did last week against the Miami Dolphins, winning 16-10, I just don't think that they have enough pieces in place right now to be able to compete with Houston. And even though it was a division matchup, and it was closer, I feel like Houston's going to pull away with this one.
Yeah, and then you got Green Bay going to Jacksonville. Green Bay just beat up Houston. I know the score seemed really close, but C.J. Stroud was 10 for 21 with 80 yards and no touchdowns. And Joe Mixon carried that game, which he does most times, when he's not hurt. Again, Diggs did horrible, 5 for 23. So it's nice to see because obviously if that was Josh Allen stat line, you wouldn't hear the end of it. But because it was CJ Stroud and he gets treated differently than everyone else, wasn't talked about much. But, Green Bay's a good football team. Jacksonville, they won another game against the Patriots, and it's the Patriots. Maybe they turn a corner, but I think Green Bay is just another really good team, and they're going to win this one.
Green Bay last week with Josh Jacobs running the ball looked excellent, and I feel like with Jordan Love, they're going to be able to move the ball down the field. They have a really good tight end there in Tucker Kraft, who has been kind of going off the last couple of weeks. He's a fantasy tight end that I picked up, and I'm glad I did. I'm taking Green Bay, and I'm going to ride with them. Their defense is starting to play a little bit better as well, and Xavier McKinney is playing some good football as well. So I'm going to stick
with
Green Bay.
Jordan Love's doing good too. I mean, he does have 8 interceptions in 5 games, but again, the weird thing is nobody's talking about how he leads the league in interceptions, even though he's playing good football. Because like when Josh Allen was doing it every year, leading the league in touchdowns and being in the top 3 with turnovers, that was, he can't win MVP because of turnovers. He can't be considered good because of turnovers. Now when guys like Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, they're all up there for leading the league in turnovers, it's not talked about at all when Josh has 0. So
right.
Again, just always funny to hear that. Then you got the Titans, who we just beat against the Lions at Detroit. Obviously, I don't see Detroit losing this game unless they have a complete meltdown. But should be a good win for them, getting their starters out early.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Buffalo was able to do the same thing, even though they didn't take their starters out. They were able to get a commanding win, winning by 24 there. And I do feel like this is going to be a Detroit win by a lot, and they'll be able to get their starters out midway through the third quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you got another divisional matchup: Falcons versus Bucks. Tampa Bay, again, they have a horrible pass defense. They're missing some starters, and then Lamar Jackson destroyed them. The Ravens destroyed them. Then they tried clawing back late in the game when it was already over. They already lost Mike Evans earlier. Then they lost Chris Godwin for the year now. And they barely beat Atlanta last time, from what I remember. It was a good game, though, in Atlanta. But I think because of those 2 injuries to your best receivers, I don't see the Bucks doing anything with that defense and missing their weapons. I think Atlanta wins this game.
Yeah, I remember back to a couple weeks ago when this was the Thursday night football matchup and Younghoe Koo made that 59-yard field goal to win the game, costing me a good pick or not a good pick, but a good selection for the spreads. And he ruined my spread, was able to do that. So I was kind of disappointed in them because I took Tampa Bay and I felt like Tampa Bay was going to win that game, and they didn't. But I'm taking Atlanta. I'm going to ride with them. I feel like they're the better team right now, especially with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin being out. Baker Mayfield last week did not look good. He struggled quite a bit, and I feel like this is going to be one of those games where the defense of the Bucks isn't going to compete with the Kirk Cousins-led offense. And Atlanta is a sleeper team. I'm going to tell you this right now. There's somebody that's going to be competing in the NFC, and hopefully they'll be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you got 2 crap teams, the Jets and the Patriots. Obviously, the Patriots look a little bit better with Drake May, but they're still not ready yet. They're in the year 1 of the rebuild. And then the Jets went all in and are 2-5. They got Hassan Reddick now. They got Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, all Hall of Fame tackles. The list goes on. So they should win this game. So they'll be 3-5. I think the Jets will win this game, and then go back to reality against Houston on Thursday night and lose that one. But yeah, I got the Jets.
I have the Jets winning this game. Like you said, there's so much talent on the Jets. And last week, the New England Patriots, they came out strong, leading 10-0 against the Jaguars, and they just struggled after that. The Jaguars were able to put on 22 points in the first half that were uncommanded, and then they were able to win that game by quite a bit. I feel like this game is going to be a run game for the New York Jets. They're going to be able to run the ball with Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and then it's going to come down to a few passes with Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson being mixed into it. But you'll see some play actions in play with Aaron Rodgers, and it'll be a good game. But I definitely have the Jets winning this one.
And then you got pretty good matchup, Chicago and Washington. It's up in the air about Daniels. He might be injured. But again, these are two great teams. Chicago's in last place at 4-2, and Washington's 5-2 and in first place. And they've just been looking great with Daniels. Their defense is looking, well above what I expected. Chicago, their offense seems to be clicking now when it wasn't in the beginning of the year, and the defense was having to carry them. Because I'm not sure about Jaden Daniels, he might play and it might, be different, but I think I'm just going to go with Chicago just because I'm not sure about him. And he has a rib injury. So if he does play, all it takes is one hit and then he's done. And I don't think Marcus Mariota is going to be able to do anything against the Bears defense. So I'm going to pick Chicago.
Yeah, I feel like the safe bet right now is to take Chicago, even though I do think if Jaden Daniels plays in this game, that it'll be a different ball game. But I'm going to take Chicago right now and stick with it.
And then Tua's going to be back. You got Arizona, who just had a great game against the Chargers, and then Miami Dolphins in Miami. It's tough to see because Tua hasn't been good, even when he's been playing. And if you go back, I say this because I got a lot of friends in the Dolphin community that always talk about it. Since the Dallas game last year that they won, they averaged 13 points a game. And that was like a 12-game span with Tua and without Tua total. So he really hasn't been good. They haven't been good even with him. And it shocked me. It really did that even though he was out, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle couldn't do anything.
Right.
They got one last week against the Colts. They each got one catch. It doesn't matter how bad you are at quarterback. You should be able to feed a good receiver. Like Zach Wilson made Garrett Wilson a 1,000-yard receiver 2 years in a row. And he's one of the worst quarterbacks I ever saw. So it really shocked me how bad they were, even with the weapons they had. Like Tyreek Hill won best player in the world last year, voted on by the players. And now you're telling me he gets one catch a game for 5 yards? Like that doesn't even make sense. But I'm sure they'll be a little bit better with Tua. I don't know how quick, but I'm going with Miami here just because I got a feeling they're going to hit some big plays, and Arizona doesn't have a great defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Arizona is going to struggle in this game, especially with Miami and Tua being back. Tua's looked sharp in practice this week, so I'm going to take Miami to win this one, even though I think that Arizona could win this game. It just depends on their defense, and I don't have a lot of trust in their defense.
And then you got New Orleans versus the Chargers. Both teams haven't looked great. I mean, offensively, the Chargers aren't good, but they got a great defense. The offense isn't horrible, but like last week, Herbert made a good pass, and then the guy fumbled it at the 1. So it's like they could have scored more, but they just haven't got it together in a couple weeks. And then New Orleans lost 5 in a row, and they suck like a lot of us expected to. So I think the Chargers will win this game.